Welcome to the She Said Privacy, He Said Security podcast. Like any good marriage, we will debate, evaluate, and sometimes quarrel about how privacy and security impact business in the 21st century.
Hi, Jody Daniels here. I'm the founder and CEO of Red Clover Advisors, a certified women's privacy consultancy. I'm a privacy consultant and certified informational privacy professional, providing practical privacy advice to overwhelmed companies.
Hi, I'm Justin Daniels here. I am a partner at the law firm Baker Donaldson. I am passionate about helping companies solve complex cyber and privacy challenges during the life cycle of their business. I am the cyber quarterback, helping clients design and implement cyber plans, as well as help them manage and recover from data breaches.
And this episode is brought to you by Red Clover Advisors. We help companies to comply with data privacy laws and establish customer trust so that they can grow and nurture integrity. We work with companies in a variety of fields, including technology, e-commerce, professional services, and digital media. In short, we use data privacy to transform the way companies do business. Together, we're creating a future where there's greater trust between companies and consumers. To learn more and to check out our new best-selling book, Data Reimagined, Building Trust One Bite at a Time, visit redcloveradvisors.com. Ready to get started today?
I am. Do you know what I did last night?
No?
I asked ChatGPT if it was familiar with our podcast.
Ooh, what did it say?
It said that it was and who we were. So maybe on their next show, I'll actually read its answer.
Okay.
So
Fun
yes.
Or scary. I don't know. Only read it if it sounds good.
Okay. Or maybe I'll just hallucinate and read it. Anyway, so let's introduce our guest today. So I'm excited to have someone that I know very well. So today we're going to the office of the General Counsel. So we have Amy Chipperson here with us today. She is the General Counsel of Axtria, a data analytics software company that is exclusive to the healthcare and life sciences industry. And she is based in New Jersey. Amy, welcome to the show today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, we're excited that you're here. And we always like to start with, how did people get to where they are? So if you could take us a little bit on your career journey to how you found your way to General Counsel today.
Sure. I first started out after law school working for my father. My father was an attorney in a very small practice here in New Jersey. And I worked there for a number of years. He passed away. And I was primarily handling litigation matters. And litigation in New Jersey had hit a period of time where there were a lot of new rules put in place that if you had any kind of family emergency or issue and you were supposed to be in court that morning, you could face some significant penalties. And I had a small child at the time, and it just got to be very unwieldy. So a friend of mine had approached me a few years back about coming in-house at Hewlett Packard. And I, at that time, didn't think it was for me, but that was prior to my first son being born. And then after my son was born, it actually sounded like a better idea. So I took her up on that offer a couple of years later and joined HP to support them in their litigation department. And then, as with all things in-house, you eventually get a taste of everything that they're involved in. And I dealt with a lot of different matters at HP and got heavily involved in transactional work, and then transactional work in the managed services side of Hewlett Packard, and then began working exclusively in their managed services side. And then I went from there. I went to TCS for a brief period, but then ultimately went to a French firm called Atos. And Atos was a very big managed services provider And I started out there as senior counsel negotiating many different types of agreements. Atos had many, many different service towers, from um, data center management to apps development and maintenance to software as a service, to edge computing, cloud transformation. Um, that's just a few of the things that they did. And I began work there, and was promoted a couple of years later to the General Counsel for North America, and remained there until I was asked to join Axtria as their General Counsel. And so here I am. I've been at Axtria now for almost 2 years as their General Counsel.
Well,
And
thank
so
you
that's
for
how I ended up
sharing.
here.
And congratulations. People always find their way in a variety of different paths. We really appreciate you sharing.
So speaking of all the things that you've had to learn in your career, from litigation to transactional, um, talk to us a little bit about Axtria's day-to-day business and how you're starting to see privacy and security impact the kinds of things that you're brought in to do and decisions that you're asked to advise the executive on making.
So Axtria, and one of the things that continues to amaze me about Axtria is the just level of ingenuity and honestly brilliance that um, our service provider, our people bring. Their ability to perform data analytics and novel types of data analytics questions is just amazing to me. They perform at such a high level. The products that we have brought to market to help healthcare and life science companies, we perform data warehousing solutions, field intelligence type of solutions, and analytics for the healthcare and life science field. And it's just really inspiring to see what we do on a day-to-day basis that really makes a big difference in people's lives, and in healthcare, and in bettering healthcare for everybody.
With that in mind, are you seeing customers bring up privacy and security? And if so, have you seen a trend where, I certainly see in my business, it seems like more and more companies are asking service providers, what are your privacy practices? What are your security practices? So I'm curious what you're seeing from customers from a privacy and security lens.
Absolutely. And we specialize and work exclusively in the healthcare and life sciences field. And so there's a number of concerns in data privacy, from the type of data that we use. I mean, obviously, we are a data analytics company, and we work with data from many different third-party data providers or from our own customers' data. And that data can range from patient data to data about certain products that our customers might be working on or researching or developing. And so there's I think in our field, there's probably, or in our industry, there's probably more concerns about data than in a lot of the other types of industries out there, if you will, like they may be manufacturing or transportation or retail, et cetera. So yeah, so that's something that I think is in the forefront of our minds on a constant basis. And something that our customers are, to answer your question, is something that is on the forefront of our customers' minds as well.
Are there any examples that you might be able to offer? Maybe it's additional questions, or maybe in team meetings, people are talking about the privacy and security piece a little bit differently because there is such a customer focus on privacy and security. I guess where I'm going is, some companies think privacy and security is just this legal obligation. They have to do it. Other companies like yours are really seeing the impetus come from customers. And so it's becoming more of a driving force. It's becoming more of a focus inside the organization.
Mm-hmm. I think it's always been a huge priority for us. Customer trust, I think, is one of the foundational building blocks of our company and of our strategy. And so, there in the pharma or life sciences field, there's we work with a lot of data, a lot of big data, and one of the things that I think people don't realize is that most of the data we work with is tokenized or anonymized data. And so I think one of the things people have to realize is that nobody is getting or we're not looking at personally identifiable information about anybody. Everything is tokenized, and the responsibility or the obligations is that you will not de-identify or detokenize any data that you're receiving, especially from any third party data provider, and that's something that is I think a cardinal rule and should be a cardinal rule in our industry, and that's one of the big aspects that, or one of the big requirements that we have.
My little ears perked up. Customer trust. Yay.
Yes, there's a book that talks
Yes,
about that. I'm
yes,
familiar with.
That's the book.
yeah,
Yes.
it's a huge priority for us. Mhm.
So, Amy, as someone who works closely with the CEO and the board, how have you seen, in general, you've had different jobs, executive leadership evolve in their thinking as it relates to how privacy and security might impact strategic decisions they make about new products, maybe new analytics that they do, and how privacy and security play a role in how they might design it or deploy it with customers?
There's so many. There's I think multiple concerns when you're building your strategy or you're implementing your strategy. First is and what's your priorities? So obviously there's legal requirements that we have to abide by. There's customer priorities that are a significant priority. There's cost elements to what you're going to implement and how you're going to implement it. There's your people priorities, in the workforce, in within your organization, and how it's implemented and how they're trained to deal with certain things, and how to make things a priority. So there's I think so many multiple levels that data security and data privacy has to be, the focus has to really be thought out. And it's not something that you can just take the dartboard approach and just try to hit certain things and hope you hit them correctly, and if you don't, you don't. It has to, it really requires a holistic approach, and you really have to look really intently at what your strategy is, and develop it. There's some firms out there that may not have the hugest budget or as big a budget as other places, but with the right decision and the right mentality, you can be just as safe, if not safer, than someone else that has a huge budget but doesn't know how to spend it.
In the privacy space, it's changing all the time. And in your purview, you have privacy plus a number of other laws that you have to keep up with. What do you find to be that works for you in educating yourself in the privacy space, the security space, and just all the different laws that are in your universe as you're advising executives?
the legal requirements, to be honest, are maddening. We have no federal data privacy rule like the EU has, and maybe you know something that I don't. But I don't see really anything on the horizon either, coming down, and so what we're left with is the potential for 50 different sets of privacy rules from 50 different states, that somehow have to be complied with if you are a national or global company, that you have to constantly be aware of any amendments, any other implementation changes, any court rulings that further interpret or decide language within the statutes as they're put into place. And so it's something that can really keep somebody up at night. And you don't know what you don't know either. And you think that, or you hope that everything is proceeding according to the instructions that you've laid out based on your reviews of the law, et cetera. And I think that it's just something that's so constantly in flux that you can never really feel settled, that you have every consideration handled. I mean, I don't know if I kind of think that anybody who thinks that they have it all handled and all in place and all locked down, I don't know. Maybe I think they might be kidding themselves.
Oh, it's definitely changing quickly. And to share my thoughts on your question about the federal law, I always answer it. I feel like it's a crystal dart, right? It's this some combination of a crystal ball and then just throw dart, and who knows exactly where it's going to land because there's so much political play at hand. And I agree. I think we're on our path to a 50 state framework, unless something unique and interesting changes and throws a curveball, which is always possible.
Always.
Stick with my crystal dart.
And then you have to take into consideration, well, sure, maybe there is a federal law that comes down, but will states still have the right to further tweak it?
Right.
And and then you're still in the same position that you're in right now without the federal law. So you will ultimately have states, and I'm not knocking California in particular, but they take a very what's the word I'm looking for? But it's a high priority with them and their citizens' privacy, and so they will most likely have probably additional rules if a federal rule is ever established, and I think other states will also follow suit.
That is the big question. Will the states be able to override or not? We will have to wait and see.
So, kind of, Amy, to further add another level of complexity, your company has international operations. So now you have to worry about not only your managing privacy in the US, but also GDPR. And there's many other countries that are passing laws. So can you give us a little window into how you have to think about that? Because the regimes in those other countries are very different than the US.
Exactly. And I think one of the things about data privacy that you have to, and data privacy laws, is that you just have to accept the fact that it's always going to be fluid. Even in the EU with GDPR, when it was first established to where we are now, even backing up, even before GDPR, when you had Safe Harbor, and then Privacy Shield, and then GDPR, and then Schrems 1 and Schrems 2, and I mean I don't think it's far-fetched to believe that there will be a Schrems 3, and so we all know that these data privacy laws are very fluid, and you just have to accept the fact that change is inevitable, and you have to be able to pivot quickly and effectively in order to maintain your compliance and to make sure that you're, and it's something you always have to be aware of and kind of have that ear to the ground of knowing um, what's coming up. You really have to be very proactive about it and keep on top of it, and you know, subscribe to the publications that specialize in this, and take your CLE classes and or any other programs that are out there that keep on top of it so that you're on top of it. And there's really no other way to do it other than to almost make it your hobby.
Oh, like how
Yeah.
how we talk about privacy and security all day over here.
Exactly.
Right. But I think, Amy, what's maybe sometimes difficult for an audience to appreciate who aren't in your seat is this is something you're now having to pick up. It could be 50 US states, it's GDPR, and that's on top of you could have an antitrust issue come up. You have to manage litigation. And what I'm saying is that you see how it stretches what you're doing and how people may start to say, oh, I can start to use artificial intelligence to help me start to do and automate tasks because you don't have an infinite budget to have a 50-person legal department. And so I just think when you talk about this, I want to illustrate for the audience how people can go down the route of looking at how some of this technology can automate this, because for you to try to keep up on all of this with the various areas you have to advise on as the chief legal officer, it's really a challenge.
It is, and obviously, obviously the chat IP is in its infancy, and as we all know, that can take you down some pretty dark avenues when you start to have discussions with your own chatbot. And so I wouldn't recommend anybody relying on that as your sole or even primary source of truth. But it probably, and I would hope that it will be a fantastic tool in the future. If we have this discussion 25 years from now, and we look at how it's evolved, we'll think, my gosh, how did we ever live without this? So
that will be an interesting day when we
right?
figure it out. It's certainly a fun time to be here. Amy, with all the knowledge that you have on privacy and security, what is your best privacy tip? We always like to say, imagine you're hanging out with a group of people. You have all of this information. They are not as well informed. What might you suggest that they do?
That is a great question. I mean, I think it depends on the group of people that I'm with, and their level of background in the subject. But I think one of the things that people should have is a very common sense approach to it, and kind of lean towards being very conservative on the topic. I think that would serve you well. But to think, is this information? If this were my information, would I want somebody else to see it? And I think that if the answer is no, then you kind of have your answer and your strategy kind of built into your being, if you will, and that if you look at things with a common sense approach and not be flippant about it and not be kind of overly confident, then you will make the right choices and you will make the right decisions when it comes to data and privacy, and you'll have, and if there is eventually a problem that you run into, you'll have a defensible argument. Maybe your actions weren't perfect, but they were coming from a place of care, and that you were aware of what the issues are. And I think that would help people out in the long run.
I like the idea of making sure that people are thinking about the data as if it was their own. Great tip for people to think about.
So
right.
When you're not being the GC and thinking about privacy, security, and the litany of other challenges that a data analytics company is navigating, what do you like to do for fun?
Fun. Well, data security, obviously, and data laws are my hobby, but just kidding. No, I spend a lot of time. I live in New Jersey. I'm a big fan of the Jersey Shore. We spend a lot of time down at the Jersey Shore with my family, and that's primarily where you'll find me every summer. And then when it's not summer, my younger son plays football in high school, and so every weekend I'm at a football game. And we like to try and ski, although I'm not very good at it anymore. But we like to ski with friends and do a lot of things with just family and friends, pretty low key, pretty quiet.
Sounds
Although
like
I have to say, my husband, right, my husband and son are at the Yankee opening day today, but that's fine. It's only like 30 something degrees here. I think I'll stay inside. But yeah, I like to say I'm an outdoors person if the outdoors that I'm in is on the beach.
Well, you can qualify it however it works for you.
Right. I'm not much of a camper.
I wouldn't pick camping either. That's okay. Amy, we really appreciate all that you shared with us today. If people wanted to connect and learn a little bit more, where should they go?
You can always message me on LinkedIn. There's only one Amy Chipperson that I'm aware of on LinkedIn. So you can find me very easily there, and feel free to message me. And if you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer.
Well, wonderful. Thank you. We'll be sure to share that in our notes.
Yep. It was great to have you on the show.
Thanks. I hope I gave out some useful information.
Indeed, you did.
Thanks for listening to the She Said Privacy, He Said Security podcast. If you haven't already, be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes and check us out on LinkedIn. See you next time.